Hello there and welcome to your weekly dose on reports, discussions and stories on businesses across the country. My name is Diana Iriza and you're watching Business Digests. Now, on our very first story today, our focus will be on the cooperation signed between the European Investment Bank and Bank of Kigali to support the investments of businesses in Rwanda. Have a look. The Bank of Kigali yesterday secured a credit line of 30 billion Rwandan francs from the European Investment Bank, the long-term lending institution of the European Union, to support small and medium enterprises. The deal, signed on the sidelines of the ongoing Africa CEO Forum, is expected to tackle access to finance challenges among the local SMEs, particularly in energy, manufacturing and trade, agriculture, transport and the tourism sector. The European Investment Bank has provided 63 billion Rwandan francs to private sector investment in Rwanda in partnership with the Bank of Kigali since 2009.
This agreement is very significant because it's cementing a relationship that we started with EIB about 3 years ago, where we had access to a line of credit of 28 million euros. So because of the relationship, because we've been paying back well, they thought, and because of the impact the first line has had on the Rwandan economy, they thought it was useful and important to increase the business with us. Today we've signed 30 million euros that we're going to deploy as soon as we can in the Rwandan economy. And we are hoping that beyond this, we are building a stronger relationship. And as you've heard, European Investment Bank is a bank that is well rated, so that they are able to raise funding at cheap rates. And over time, strengthening our relationship, we'll be able also to have access to this affordable funding, and we'll deploy this funding also at affordable rates for our clients.
Great.
We are representing the European Union. We are the European Union Bank. And the European Union has a strong interest to develop the private sector in Africa. This is why in Rwanda we have been active to finance a number of banks who themselves are going to finance small and medium-sized enterprises. And Bank of Kigali has been one of the first with which we have worked already 3 years ago. It has developed so well that the funds are now exhausted, and this is why we have the second loan, and I'm sure it's going to be very successful.
Yes, we finance many companies in the manufacturing sector. For example, Master Steel is one of the companies we finance. They produce steel products, iron sheets, etc. This was possible thanks to the financing we got from EIB. And as we grow the relationship, we are going to be able to deploy more capital in the manufacturing sector, because we've seen it's a sector that has a lot of impact in terms of job creation and in terms of also supporting our current account deficit, because we are currently importing bulk of our construction materials, etc.
Through supporting the financial sector, and here Bank of Kigali is a great example, we are contributing to achieving the goals of the European Union, supporting the development of SMEs, of creation of jobs, of the private sector development in Africa and in Rwanda in particular. There are, because the money has been disbursed, and many SMEs have been benefiting from this, and I'm sure that Dr. Karuzisi will be very delighted to give you a few examples.
Now, TransUnion Africa is now delivering the Menesha services in Kinyarwanda language, making it easy for 90% of the country's population to access the services and also be able to read their credit report in the Kinyarwanda language. This will not only increase the registrations in the TransUnion Africa, but will also make it easy for the clients to access the services and hence reduce the traveling from rural areas to the capital city. TransUnion Africa is leading the charge in financial education and has launched Menyesha in Rwanda's mother tongue language, Kinyarwanda, at the company's newly renovated offices. Having Menyesha delivered in the country's local language means close to 90% of the population will be able to read their credit report by themselves. Up until now, the challenge for locals was the inconvenience of traveling long distances to the country's capital Kigali and the subsequent long queues that formed because English reports needed further explanation in Kinyarwanda. This move by TransUnion Africa will not only help to increase registrations, but it is well aligned to the government's financial inclusion mandate to improve socio-economic development, access to finance, and to help reduce poverty. Now join me as we welcome the Senior Director of TransUnion Africa, Mr. Chad Reimers, to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here.
Now, TransUnion Kinyarwanda Credit Report. Brief us on that.
Yeah, so TransUnion is Rwanda's only credit reference bureau. We've been around since 2010. And effectively what that means is we sit at the heart of the lending ecosystem. And what's important to us is to empower consumers to enable them to get access to credit. Now, the Kinyarwanda Consumer Report gives Rwandans the chance to understand their credit history in their own language. And this is important because we launched this product in 2017. We've had 20,000 registrations on our Menyesha platform, and what we found is that we need to make the product more accessible to more people, and that's why today we're launching the Kinyarwandan Consumer Report.
Talk to us a little bit on the procedures that your clients have to undergo to get your services, to access your services.
Yeah, so on the Menyesha platform, it's an SMS-based platform, and consumers or a Rwandan can use the SMS platform and dial 2272, and that will create entry into the platform. There's ID verification in the background in terms of the mobile registrations, and then they'll go through a series of menu options to access their credit report, their clearance certificate, and other services. And that's that's the platform we want to use to evolve the product offering going forward. Talking about a credit consumer report, talking about some technical stuff. It's, what's a judgment? What's a default? What does it mean for me as an individual? And we found that in an English report, people were struggling to understand that in there because of the language translation difficulties. So what we've done and what we're doing is we've translated the report, the product, but more importantly perhaps we've translated the supporting collateral, the education material. And we're now on a campaign to distribute this as far and wide through our network, through our client base like SACCOs. There's 400 SACCOs in this country. So how do we work with the SACCOs and the MFIs to distribute this educational material? It's also about education. The product's important, but it's the education and consumer awareness which is really important for us. The report is effectively a snapshot into your financial behavior. If you've taken a loan, how have you repaid the loan? If you've taken another loan, have you stopped paying the loan? Now, if you've stopped paying the loan, that gets flagged by credit providers contributing to this single database. And what that means for a new credit provider, if you're going for another loan, is that they may be less willing to provide new credit to you because they're saying, well, maybe this person's a bit risky and they won't get their money back. So the idea behind a consumer report is to give the power of information to the consumer. So instead of this being in a dark box in a credit provider, a consumer can say, look, I know what loans I have, I know I've repaid my loans, and I know if I repay my loans, I'll be a better risk to a bank, and that may have benefit to me through lower interest rates, for example. From a credit loan point of view, obviously that's through a bank. When we're not a credit provider, the consumer would go to a bank or an MFI or SACCO. The role we play is we help the bank or MFI or SACCO understand the risk and the profile and the behavior of the consumer applying. And that's our role, is that now in terms of getting access to the credit report, they can use our Menyesha platform or use various other channels of communication as well.
But you mentioned risks. Do you also educate and inform your consumers about these kind of risks?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we're trying to do more of, is educate our consumers, also educate our clients, educate the credit providers around the importance of this information. But in terms of consumers, it's important for them to know some of the basics around around the lending industry, whether it's, what does payment profile mean? What does your payment behavior look like? And why is that important? And actually, how can I benefit as an individual in terms of getting access to an education loan or a car loan? And those are the sort of things we're trying to educate the consumers on. And we're going to do more of that as we roll out our campaign through Rwanda.
The city of Kigali inaugurated tourism activities of all parts of the city with the help of a coach of 68 seats. The tours take place in 3 stages carried out from morning till midnight. This vehicle with 2 superimposed compartments costs 150 million Rwandan francs. It will perform tours around the city of Kigali in 3 phases. The first phase will be during morning hours from 9 a.m. till midday, where tourists will be able to explore ancient areas of the Kigali city. The second phase will take place from 2 p.m. till 5 p.m. and tourists, with the help of a tour guide, will explore the new city of Kigali. And on the third phase, from 6 p.m. till 11 p.m., tourists will explore the nightlife of the capital city. The Rwandan Development Board and City of Kigali believe that this vehicle will help promote tourism based on tour visits carried out in the city of Kigali.
You're still watching Business Digest. Now join me as we welcome Mr. Augustin Munyandamutsa, the Managing Director of the Kigali City Sightseeing Tour Bus. Now, as you can see, we're exploring the Kigali City on this sightseeing tour bus, and he's here to answer a few questions that I will be asking him concerning the unveiling of this sightseeing tour bus. Now, Mr. Augustin, thank you so much for being part of Business Digest. All right, so obviously this bus has just been launched. Not more than 3 days have passed since the launch took place. Can you brief us a little bit on the progress so far? How are Rwandans responding to this, both domestic and international tourists in the country and Kigali City? How are they responding to this business?
After the launch, we have received so many compliments from Rwandans, from international. We received bookings, and we managed to tour some people. For instance, today we had a birthday which happened on the bus from 12 to 2 p.m. Yeah, then later in the afternoon we had other internationals who toured, from 2:30 to 5 p.m.
According to the information that we have, this tour bus is meant to increase on the tourist resources that are to attract both domestic tourists and international tourists. Now, speaking of domestic tourists, do we actually have domestic tourists? Are there any people in this city that will leave their daily schedules and lives to hop on this bus and tour the Kigali city?
Yeah, for example, this morning we had a birthday which happened from 12 to 2. It was very amazing. Yeah, it was a birthday. Yeah, we toured the family. It was a kid, a 10 years old kid. Yeah, they enjoyed. We covered Kachiro, Nyarutarama, Kibagabaga, Kisimenti. So people were happy, very happy.
Okay, great.
And in the afternoon, we toured some international tourists.
Okay. So if you leave alone the domestic tourists, we also have the international tourists. And as we both know, most of the tourist attractions in Rwanda, such as the volcano, mountains, the gorillas, are not within the Kigali city. So how effective is the sightseeing tour bus in Kigali city, the tourism sector?
Yeah, I think this is complementary on what is happening in the city touring. So the tour operators are using these jeeps to tour our visitors. But I think this bus has brought something special.
Can you brief us a little bit on the pricing system of this sightseeing tour bus? For our viewers out there who are watching who do not know how much it will cost them for them to be on this bus and tour the city.
Our rates for international, it is $40. Yeah, for East Africans, it is $20 US. We will have some group discounts, which will go to up to 15,000 Rwanda franc for Rwandans. And that is the rate now.
All right, so thank you so much, Mr. Gostin, for having this interview with Rwanda TV's Business Digest.
Yeah.
And I look forward to more trips on this bus.
Thank you so much. You are welcome.
All right, so you're still watching Business Digest. We still have more to come. Do stay with us.
And on today's segment of Market Trends, our focus will be on the growth that Rwanda's insurance industry has registered over time. As of December 2018, total assets of the sector, both public and private, increased by 13% year-on-year to 452.4 billion Rwandan francs. And gross premium also increased by 11% to 134.8 billion Rwandan francs. Assets of public insurers increased by 14% to 283.5 billion, while assets of private insurers increased by 12% to 169.2 billion Rwandan francs. Despite this growth, the low insurance density of 19.402 Rwandan francs and penetration at 1.7% show that there is still a lot of room for growth of the insurance.
Now that's all we had for you today. Thank you so much for joining us today. Business Weekly tips are up next. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next week.